Hello everyone, welcome to the Auckland waterfront. Incidentally, just over there is a ferry coming in. I think, and I might be wrong, but I think that's the ferry that goes to and from Tiritimatangi, the bird sanctuary. I really recommend that as a day trip. Absolutely beautiful way of spending a day. Magic saddlebacks, kakapo, beautiful. Anyway, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to show you Apple New Zealand. It's in this building behind me, the PwC building, that big, rather lovely white building right on Auckland's waterfront. If you're wondering why I'm doing that, well, it relates to a podcast we put out on Radio New Zealand, RNZ, last week about Apple New Zealand. What we found, and this is fascinating, is that Apple New Zealand in the last financial year ended 27 September 2014 had revenue of $568 million, but cost of sales of $551 million, meaning they're only able to pay $6.8 million in tax. Really high cost of sales, more than 95% of their revenue. I became somewhat interested in this. You know, dear Apple, I said, what are those costs? Could you explain them? Why are they so high? What do you spend your money on in New Zealand? So I called Apple and I said, while we're at it, could you tell me where your operation is, $500 million worth of New Zealand operation, and what those costs are? So this is what Apple New Zealand, who are in fact represented by media people in Australia, told me.
I'm not sure if that is something, in fact I know it's not something that we'll want to go into.
Do you have an office here?
There is an office in New Zealand, yes.
And so whereabouts is it?
I don't have the address to hand.
I'm just interested in why your costs are so high.
Yeah, that's not something that we have a comment on.
So as you can hear, Apple were unable to tell me what their costs were, $500 million of costs on $568 million of revenue, meaning only $6 million in tax. They couldn't tell me what they were. They didn't want to. They couldn't support that discussion. And they didn't want to tell me where the New Zealand office was. But a man called Alex, who listened to the podcast, contacted us and said, well, it's in the 15th floor of that building. It's not the whole building. They are simply tenants, just tenants, in a corner of the 15th floor. Now, we went in to film it before so we could show you what $500 million of costs gets you in New Zealand, but we were asked to leave, not to film and to leave. But we do have some photos, just some phone photos of the Apple New Zealand office, so we'll put those over the top while we speak. So Apple New Zealand, revenue $568 million, costs $551 million, tax of $6.8 million, and this is their New Zealand office. We've been unable to speak to anyone from it. We've been unable to speak to anyone from their Australian office about why their costs are so high and what those costs are. We have, however, found the Sydney Morning Herald article from March 2014, which says, and I quote, US tech giant Apple has shifted an estimated $8.9 billion in untaxed profits from its Australian operations to a tax haven structure in Ireland in the last decade. It's kind of fascinating. Is something similar to that going on in New Zealand? We don't know. We don't know. We know it's legal what Apple are doing, but we don't know how they have $500 million worth of costs in New Zealand. What are they? Now, I've repeatedly tried to get hold of Apple, and I'd love it if someone would explain. You have my number, call me. And wonderfully, it's an iPhone.